Hello and welcome to the training for the version 10.6 release of the ForecastBuilder software. Some of the highlights with this release include there are several improvements to the precipitation type process, including new tools, which we will discuss later in this training. There's some blowing snow improvements, added ability here to run certain steps without proceeding onwards. If you recall, you have some of your normal GFE tools have this run button. Now we'll be able to kind of just do that rather than just automatically moving right on, and you'll see that coming up in the training. Some added new skip recent edit option in the populate step. We've also added some time saving functionality to the doing derived parameters, think like apparent temperature, to help not recalculate them if they're not needing to be recalculated. And then we've added several technical fixes, including the issue with the missing data mode equals create. Some offices need to have that for other tools. If you have that set up that way, ForecastBuilder in the past versions, when it wants to read grids, something like hazards, if there's a gap, that reading would cause an interpolation because of missing data mode being create. So we've tried to put a technical fix in there, and we'll see if that kind of fixes that issue. There's also several other updates here, a lot on this slide. I'll try and run through them in a kind of quick pace here. First, the derive hourly T tool. There's been a couple of improvements here. One, to when click the populate T step or during the cron population, it's going to automatically run. And some of that's kind of to reduce confusion between the leaving it off and just letting hourly T's populate versus running this algorithm. This is a site configurable. It should reduce confusion if you just let the default be as is. There's also added clarity to the status messages when you do have consistency issues between temperature and max min T. I would refer you back to the derive hourly T tool training module in the ForecastBuilder training plan about describing why do these situations exist in the first place. We've also added more descriptive categories here, the weather preview, and you can see them here in this image, to help a little bit discern all the various different precipitation types that can exist across your domain. Then the storm total, snow, ice, and QPF grids will get created in the precip cum step, but you can configure those to either be your actual storm total or be just preview. The preview is the default for that. And there's more under the hood fixes, and you can read more about them in the 10.6 documentation. So let's talk a little bit about the skip recent edit option. This is helpful if, for example, you have made some, recent edits to your grids, but you want to still populate other ones and get them refreshed. So you could just click on the elements that you haven't done and kick this skip recent edits button, and it will maintain what you had in there before. I mentioned that you have that ability to have that kind of run versus run continue option that you would have in normal GFE tools. So you'll see in the new 10.6 here, these buttons on various spots within the within ForecastBuilder. For example, here on the P type of cum and the weather grid step and the fire weather step, where you'll have either a calculate or create. You'll press those and it will do it, and then you hit the save continue and it will save the grids, and then move on to the next step. Talk briefly about blowing snow. The one adjustment was to generally use the RTMA to create less reliance on the OBS database, just for simply to determine whether or not the snow is crusted over or not. If there's a problem with the RTMA, it will fail back to OBS. If you do have sub 2-inch snow depths, there's been a lot of feedback with regards to blowing snow and not being calculated correctly, and so there's been some adjustments, and those are detailed here on the slide, but you can see the improvement between 10.5 and 10.6 to increase the amount of blowing snow in these situations. And also for those offices and mountain areas, you can actually use this blowing snow sheltered area, which will get rid of any of the drifting / patchy snow that you would experience within the blowing snow output in the forest area. All right, for the rest of this presentation, we're going to go with talk about the precip type method changes. The first one here, a lot of feedback has come in about the pixelation of the MBM, these the P-type grids. So there's a simple smoother that is applied. It's a 3x3. Creates a much cleaner, I think, looking image that you see at right. But note that the smoother does not get applied to sharp terrain areas because we want to preserve the terrain detail. A quick reminder here on what grids and when to edit them during winter weather. So the good statement here is, if you start with good probability of type grids going in, then the WX grids later on will be good as well. So when might you want to edit the pot grids? And this happens in the Analyze Adjust step. This might be something like where you're looking at a faster changeover time from rain to snow, or just again changing types. You want more rain versus more snow. You can also edit the pot grids when you're thinking about how the QPF is going to be divided up for accumulation processes. So a couple of hints, and these actually relate to more new options here within the ForecastBuilder software with 10.6, is the weather and accumulation preview buttons. Utilize them. They're very helpful to kind of get a view of how does everything lay out across your domain for snow, ice, accum, and weather. And then to kind of bring it back a capability that we have with the top-down technique, if you're dealing with just simply loss of ice in the cloud, utilize these ice nuclei buttons. And there's increase and decrease to help change the ratios again between precip types. Meanwhile, for the weather type grids in the precip type step, this is for those finer scale ones, or if you just want to completely remove a p-type. Let's say I'm not getting freezing rain, no way, no how. Just delete the WX freezing rain grids, and there will be a process that goes back and updates the pot grids for you. Talking about pot grids, there's with the NIC 12.3 release, there was an addition for some HRR pot grids. And you can populate those right into your forecast database or blend them using smart tools, outside of ForecastBuilder. This was done to help better land the forecast. I did put on here what the MBM version 4.1 has for all its components in that nearer term. And you'll note that the HER and the HER extension, which accounts for 22%, those are the blue, one of those shades of blue and the orange shown in the pie chart. 22%, again, it's not that high. So again, if you're feeling the HER is more spot on, you can again blend with it or directly populate. And I figured share an example of this. So here's a HER pop freeze and rain on the left and the MBM on the right. For just a simple freeze and rain scenario, this is actually a loss of ice type case. Again, you have similar appearance on the probabilities, but you'll notice the HER is a lot sharper, really delineating that rain versus freezing rain, whereas the MBM is more spread out because, again, the MBM has that bigger ensemble data set, so you're going to see that more, again, spread out the probabilities. How did this verify? Yes, freeze and drizzle occurred. In fact, there were numerous accidents that happened during the evening hours once the sun went down. There was a winter weather advisory in effect several hours before this, but just really want to show this from a case that yes, this loss of ice happened and was freeze and drizzle and caused problems. So there are some changes here to the MBM p-type in the Analyze Adjust step. Like I mentioned before, we have some new increase ice nuclei and decrease ice nuclei buttons, as well as some accumulation preview. Really cool. It will give you some storm total previews for both snow and ice if your event is spanning several 6-hour grids. There's also an option here within the weather type section of the p-type step that if you just selected rain and snow, you'll get automatically forced creation of snow where the forecast temperature and dew point is cold enough, and it will handle the consistency there with it as well. And this is specifically for situations where the MBM is too warm and has grid pixels of rain only. We've also added a new tool called the TTW tool. So a way to, if you recall some past ForecastBuilder versions before we really moved over to the MBM p-type, you had you had this. You had like those entry boxes for a temperature for all rain and temperature for all snow. We've returned that capability here. And this also happens to work with the weather preview grids, and we'll show that here coming up here in a minute. There's also an assign tool here where you can add or remove weather types, and again, this works with the weather preview step. And to show that here, we have an idea here where you wanted to add more either ice, rain, snow, or rain, ice to your situation. So rather than having to jump between WX grid and another WX grid, you could just do it right on the weather preview grid, and it will automatically update those weather type grids for you. And for some odd reason, if this weather you hit that weather preview button and it comes, you see areas of unassigned, boom, that will help you catch errors before you hit that consistency of the P type. So let me talk a little bit about these the P-type method changes, just as in terms of a summary. So they've been added here just to really help with that near short-term part of the forecast. Example here, just to again land the forecast, because we've got a lot of feedback that we need more tools to help us land. Is it perfect? No, but we're getting there. We're improving on this. I will say that if you do make changes with the precip type, it can significantly alter your snow and ice accumulations. So if you make these changes, collaborate it, and even better, provide what tool was utilized in that collaboration. And finally, as I was stating here, we're trying to improve this MBMP type method to keep making it better. We're getting great feedback from the field, but so just keep it coming. Always feel free to contact the ForecastBuilder group if you have ideas. There are thoughts ahead for 10.7 to make this a little simpler. We'll be hearing more about that in the future. And if you do need to contact us, here are the different locations you can do it, via the VLab site or via email. We got several people on these groups, so again, let us know if you have any questions, concerns, ideas. Again, we're always open to that. And with that concludes the training. And again, have questions, feel free to contact. Thank you.